Liberation greetings to all and sundry. My people of Ambazonia, my dear brave warriors of our liberation movement from the former UN Trust territory of British Southern Cameroons. Accept liberation greetings from me, Comrade John Akuro. Today is Saturday, December 28th, 2024. So we're just 3 days away from the end of the year 2024. And this has been a very, very consequential year in our liberation movement. Again, as usual, I will always begin by, shouting out all those people who are doing marvelously to keep this liberation movement alive. Because La République du Cameroon believed that within 2 weeks they were going to, end it all. They were even very convinced that after shutting down the consortium, shutting down the SCNC, launching a manhunt for the early leaders of our movement, things were going to just die a natural death, but that didn't happen. And so La République du Cameroon, for 8 years today, they have been licking their wounds, and each time trying to give the impression that they now understand exactly how to hold us down or to destroy us. But our very, very resilient and determined civilian population on ground zero in Ambazonia, all over the territory, have demonstrated beyond reasonable doubt to La République du Cameroon that those 2 cubes of sugar will never melt just like that, that they will sink the entire boat and still stand. And that's exactly what has been happening. We have succeeded in asphyxiating La République du Cameroon financially, draining and squeezing them thanks to the determination and resiliency of our people on ground zero. They are the only ones who have made this possible, and I want to continue to hail you all by day and by night for this mark of bravery. My dear people of Ambazonia, I want to take this opportunity again to hail our brave hearts, those self-defense volunteers, those Ambazonian self-defense forces that are making it impossible for La République du Cameroon to to prevail over us. Those who are focused and determined, watching the flag with every action that they do, and bearing in mind at every standpoint that they are fighting for the freedom of our people and the interest of the entire population, and that their first line of defense is the civilian population for whom they are dying. You have my salute today. I really want to hail them sincerely for all they are doing with limited resources, sometimes facing a divided leadership. And, in fact, a lot is really being done. And I really want to continue to appreciate their bravery. They are making nonsense of a Cameroon military that once even made claims that they were among the strongest in the world. They have been reduced to schoolboys in Amazonia. Just this past 5 or 6 weeks have taught them again that it will never be business as usual in Amazonia. And this year, 2024, has been a year that has brought La République du Cameroon financially really to its knees. The country is facing serious trauma right now, and I bet you by February of 2025, La République du Cameroon, February, March 2025, the people of La République du Cameroon will sit down and tell themselves, we would have stood up to the dictatorial regime of Mr. Paul Biya when he launched this war in the southern Cameroons, in Ambazonia. And again, too, this year we've succeeded in getting a lot of people who are always making that mistake and referring to us as the northwest and southwest regions of La République du Cameroon. They say, no, we are not that. That we are the former UN trust territory of British Southern Cameroons, because we were the same class in trust under the United Nations like La République du Cameroon. And so we cannot suddenly become part of La République du Cameroon because we have never been. So, in fact, I want to hail our people by maintaining, by keeping the ghost towns holy and respecting, additional lockdowns that come along the way when they are really needed. I really want to praise our people. It's a great job that's being done there, and we all, trust me, will have cause to celebrate. So as this year rounds up, I really want to, continue to reassure our people that the dictum of one for all for one still remains, despite some pockets of confusion here and there. And I want to take this opportunity also to make a clarion call on all our people, especially those in the diaspora, Western Europe, North America, everywhere. Listen, when you get up early in the morning, usually, you rush to social media, Facebook, WhatsApp, to find out what the self defense forces have done on the ground in repulsing the invading forces from La République du Cameroon. Along the line, some of them do fall, just like a lot from La République du Cameroon have been falling in their thousands already. And so, one thing that we need to do to immortalize the souls of those that are gone, I like to call on our people in the diaspora. Those those are self-defense forces that you admired so greatly and who are gone, make us find out if they had wives, if they had children. Everyone try to adopt at least a child of some of these fallen soldiers, of our liberation movement. That will be a way to send a message to those still actively fighting that their memories will never be forgotten and that the dreams and aspirations they have for their own children will not be buried if something happens to them on the battlefront and they fall. This is a course of action that will help embolden our self defense volunteers, empower them to surge ahead more, especially as we move into 2025, which is going to be a very determining year in La République du Cameroon, our noisy neighbors who have been causing us all the pain and the harm. This is something we need to do. Don't forget, these are civilians. And these are people that generally, as civil society, we need to take care of. The children of those ones who have sacrificed their lives for our freedom. Locate any, adopt, make sure you are sending resources to take care of those children to go to school onto, levels that you are able to afford. That will make a lot of sense. With your $50 a month, you may be able to take care of one of those children all the way to, whatever. Just deal directly with the families. Research, take your phone, make calls. You can reach out to people who know the contacts, find out and extend a hand of olive. This is very important because these guys need to know that I'm sacrificing myself for a people who still recall our legendary spirit of community living. That's what Southern Cameroonians are known for, community living. That's we make sure that we always extend a hand to each other and guarantee that no one will go to bed hungry and no one will die of an illness without treatment. I've seen that kind of solidarity exhibited even on this platform when I've called on people to assist in dire situations. Children have been rescued, old people who were sick and in terrible conditions have been rescued. Vulnerable people have been rescued. And I really want to extend warm regards and thanks to all those Southern Cameroonians in the diaspora who have taken upon themselves sometimes to go the extra mile to assist those vulnerable cases and put smiles back on their faces. This is something wonderful, something great that we must continue to encourage. My people, on this discussion today, this broadcast today, we are going to examine, some very important issue that will really come at the end of this show. There's a video circulating out there of one Michel Biemton of La République du Cameroon who had taken interest in our struggle right from the beginning. And a lot of people have always thought, oh, Michel Biemton is a blessing to our liberation movement. I communicated with him at some point and I reminded him, Michelle, true, at the beginning, I really did admire the work you were doing. But at this point in time, I'm beginning to be convinced of what I had feared before, that you actually are among us on behalf of the government of Cameroon with a clear mission. And I want to assure you, your country is not improving. So there is no point getting into some of those things. But some in our liberation movement have told themselves that if it is told to us by a citizen of La République du Cameroun and not us, we will have a tendency of believing it because he happens to be among them and know some of these things. And so some factions in our liberation movement have actually adopted him and have been using him, thinking they're using him to their benefit, but they've been using him to destroy this same liberation movement and just helping La République du Cameroun in doing that. There's a lot that I'm going to be talking about this right ahead in this broadcast. So if you have just connected, make sure you share the link as much as possible and please don't go away. And of course, I'll talk slightly about our fallen hero, the late Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Abine. I worked with him personally. We fought a lot of fights with him, one-on-one. And so I have a few things to say to his memory just before we jump onto that. But before we get there, I'd like us to take a look at Madame President of La République du Cameroun, Chantal Biya. You look at this picture. This is Chantal Biya at an occasion which is supposed to be a happy occasion. This picture was taken on the occasion of Chantal Biya presiding at the lighting of the Christmas tree, the lighting of the Christmas tree at a hospital establishment in Yaoundé that she named it after herself, called it Chantal Biya Foundation or waiting call. But look at her. You're supposed to see smiles, excitement, and everything on her face because here she's actually going to be dishing out presents to little children. But you look at this, you look at her face, that's why I entitled it Chantal Biya's Crown of Misery. You look at her face, she's actually the president of La République du Cameroun today. I'll say it and laugh, but she's Madame President, as you see it right ahead. Not Madam President because she really knows anything or because she has an idea of how the statecraft functions, but because she is propped up by people who are using her at all levels to make sure that they keep themselves in La République du Cameroun. My problem is just the incursions they are taking in our territory. That's what interests me about her. Because I'm bringing this for us to see exactly what is right ahead. I've been telling people this Armageddon is coming. People have been thinking it's a joke. 2025 is here, and it's going to be something that nobody has imagined just yet. Because as you see this picture, so you look at Chantal Biya there, doesn't look sad, doesn't look happy, doesn't look graceful at all. You see how she's standing there, but she's completely lost. That's why I call it Chantal Biya's Crown of Misery. Because right where she is there, she is the president of La République du Cameroun. She is the one that's behind everything that's being done, even the harm that's caused to our people in the southern Cameroon is engineered by and through, especially through Chantal Biya. Now, for those who have been wondering, is it really true? Because we have talked in the past how she wrote in the official car of the state, written the President of the Republic of Cameroon, of course, with all the escorts and everything and the honors reserved for a president of the republic. We have talked about how she showed up during the review of troops and was with Mr. Biya in the limousine to review troops. Was even the one holding his hands and lifting them up. Something that normally should not happen. We've talked about her, of course, even that we've seen everything. But take a look at this one. Now you understand. This is Chantal Biya, and when she is here, she is actually at a ceremony that at the removal of the remains of Mr. Bidumpat's wife who deceased in Europe, in Italy, recently. But look at where she stands. You see, those are government ministers behind her. That is the Secretary General of the Presidency of La République du Cameroon. You find all of them there. You find that Jacques Famendongo, the Minister of Higher Education. You look at all of them there. You see the Director of the Civil Cabinet. You will see the, Minister of Communication. The entire government is standing behind her. Oh my goodness. I don't know where you have seen this before, but my dear people, this is to tell you what is coming right ahead in La République du Cameroun. And this is why I tell our people on a daily basis, let us continue to support our liberation movement and get and stand ready, because that opportunity that we have been fighting quietly and waiting for, it's around the corner. Very close. It's around the corner. And so these images, don't ever miss them out. They are sending a message, and they are sending not a good message, a message of the impending chaos that we are all going to witness in La République du Cameroon, and which, of course, will also be a harbinger of good news to us. And it may end up not really being good news for us if we are not getting ready for that moment, because that is going to be an ultimate moment, and we must work on that ultimate moment. That said, like I pointed out earlier, that La République du Cameroon is being asphyxiated, is being squeezed from all sides, and there is an impending devaluation of the Central African states, as the BEAC CFA francs. There's an impending devaluation which will make life even more complicated for the people of La République du Cameroon, on top of all the taxes that we have already talked about, and on top of the increase in the cost of a liter of gas that we have said is upcoming, and all the measures have been put in place to make sure that people will not be able to breathe in that country. Because of all of that, they are not also just lying low, they are causing harm to our people, because they are collecting money from international finance bodies on our behalf and hoping that even if something happens, we will be called upon to pay that money. An example is African Development Bank, from which they have collected several billions that they are constructing a ring road in the northern zone. Of that money, look at what is happening now. They are spending several billions, as you can see there, to lock potholes on the Douala, that is the Edea Kribi road, the Edea Kribi highway. All those billions that they are spending there is money that is drawn from the resources collected from the African Development Bank, with claims that this money is going to be used to construct the ring road that they have been constructing all their lives. That Mr. Paul has been constructing since 1990. That Paul has been constructing since 1992, and it's never getting finished. So that money that is being used, where you are seeing like that, is money drawn from that project that is being used, several billions, as you are saying, that they are using that money to lock potholes on the Douala Edea highway. How much are they spending on that highway? My goodness. They say it is going to take 7 billion, 7 billion, 7 milliard to lock potholes on the Edea Kribi highway. And this money is taken from money that is supposedly allocated for the construction or the completion of the ring road, being money drawn from the African Development Bank. I bring this development just so that we continue to see exactly where they are. Talk of evil, wickedness, and everything. This is exactly what it is. My people of Ambazonia. That rubbish that they are doing there in the name of constructing ring road, that when they pass today, the next day by the time you come, potholes are everywhere. And that's not even what you call a road in the third millennium. Those are footpaths. Well, let's take a short break and then we come back and get into serious issues. So you have just joined in, please share the link as much as you can. Yeah, welcome back. We were there in Manu, and I like to point out this that you should never be afraid to raise your voice for honesty and truth and compassion against injustice and lying and greed. Never be afraid to raise your voice for honesty and truth and compassion against injustice and lying and greed. Honorable Ayah Paul Abine followed this dictum throughout his life, even when he became a politician. Honorable Ayah Paul Abine, Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Paul Abine, might have fallen on December 24, 2024, that's on Christmas Eve, but his story, his legacy, his bravery, what he stood for, will live on for generations upon generations to come. Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Paul Abine will be remembered for so long, not because he became a politician, not just because he served the justice administration for almost 4 decades, but because he stood out in his generation. He stood for something no one will have the courage to stand for, even when he was working with them. I'll tell you this. I came to know Honorable Ayah Paul Abine closely for the first time in 2008. It was that year that Mr. Paul Biya and his apparatchiks had decided that they were going to lift the provision in the Constitution, in the 1996 Constitution, that limited presidential terms to two only, 2 7-year mandates. When that project of law got to the National Assembly of La République du Cameroon, a lot of people were being interviewed. There were a lot of mixed feelings. Don't forget that there was even some kind of 4 day of serious activities, of serious striking, which led to several deaths in Douala, Yaoundé, and Bamenda, where youth came out to protest, and they actually called it a hunger crisis. Though they called it a hunger crisis, the undertones were actually this move to lift the presidential term limits from the Constitution. Of course, all kinds of war weapons were removed. At that time, I was serving as a senior journalist at the CTV National Station, and of course, I was at the political desk, and I was one of those voices on Cameroon Calling. And I was also the presenter of the news, of the early morning news magazine known as Cameroon This Morning. And so there were a lot of interviews going on, and everything was being done to bring on board many people who will say how it will be a wonderful thing to lift the constitutional limits and allow the people in a democracy to freely choose whether to keep someone there or not, or to keep someone there as long as they want, as long as they consider that person to be popular. The reason for the massive opposition was because, of course, there are never elections going on in that country. They've always been selections. So at that time, Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Paul Abine had just been elected to parliament, And he was in parliament on the ticket of the ruling CPDM party. He was in parliament on the ticket of the ruling CPDM party. And so, when this matter came up, his positions were unmitigated. Whatever he said, even in the build up to this, his opposition to this particular constitutional revision was always clear. He was in total opposition. It got so bad that each time Ayah was going to meet his fellow CPDM MPs from what was called at the time the Southwest region, they will be running away because each region they usually held meetings. Members of parliament from those regions will hold meetings among themselves to come up to common positions on certain issues. But this time, when they convene meetings, they make sure they hit the venue from Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Abine, because they knew his position and they did not want to associate with him because they were afraid that for somebody so opposed to this kind of thing, associating with him could spell disaster. At some point, I met him at Hotel de Député when he was running all over the place, searching for the chamber where a meeting was taking place of MPs of the region where he came from. And then, as we were approaching the time Parliament had to finally examine this law, there was an interview conducted with Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Abine. And that interview was conducted by Henry Macaulay. He was there at the assembly with another team of reporters. I think I had been there earlier in the morning and left. And so when they returned, the statements that the Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Abine made was so strong that when they uploaded this interview into the system, because everything was uploaded in the computer and you could just come in, you edit from there and take and put it in a cat stack and take it to the air. And so the editors who were there at the time listened to it and told Henry Macaulay and others, take this interview out of the cat stack. We don't want to hear this on the news. Now, I don't think they did, because when I came around about just close to the 7 p.m. news, among them, I think Josh Kellogg told Macaulay and others, have you caused John to listen to that interview? He may want to use it. I said, but it has been banned. They have said we shouldn't. So they just said, just let him listen to it. So when I listened to it, I said, oh my goodness, this is a member of parliament of the CPDM party. And this thing that he's saying is pertinent. He's an elected representative of the people. And so we need to let his voice be heard. And I overheard George and the others say, that certified risk bearer, if you are not careful, is going to use that interview. So I took time off. I spent time, edited it properly, arranged it, and put it in a cat stack. So when I came in the following morning, I started the news with that slot, in which Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Abine said, if this constitutional revision were to go through, people are looking only about the issue of term limits, but all powers are being handed over to the President of the Republic over Parliament, over the judiciary, and is therefore going to make the executive to have a stranglehold upon the entire system of governance, and that will not help the country to go ahead. That is why I'm militantly opposed to this. That was all he said in that statement, and I broadcasted. My goodness. By late afternoon, I was called to the radio house. And when I got there, it was Alain Belibi, who was Director of Information. It was Sudoda. Called in, I think we were with Philip Bauer. I got in, I met Henry Macaulay, and said, we had said this fee should not be used. I said, I did not see any note written anywhere officially saying the fee should not be used. And by the way, this is a member of parliament of the ruling CPDM party. This enables us to do balance. It was hell that was breaking loose. At the end of the day, I guess Henry Macaulay got so frustrated with that because I dragged him into trouble. The two of us were given 8-day suspension, what they call in French, mise à pied, with salary effect, because of Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Abine's determination to stand for what is right. He never wavered in the face of all forms of persecution. He simply, when he ended his mandate, simply moved into the opposition. And of course, when he stood for president, of course, you knew it was certain that he was going to lose, but he did his. And even after that, he never ever stood down. At some point, his name was floated as a possible chairman of the SCNC. I mean, something that he finally did not take up. But in even with all the torture and everything, he never for 1 minute renounced his stance for an equitable treatment of the people of the southern Cameroons. True, he might have stood for federalism. It was his conviction. It was his conviction that in a federal system, like the one that was put in place in 1961, where the countries were treated as two states equal in status, the people of the southern Cameroons will have the possibility to practice their legal system, to promote their educational culture, and to also, to some level, define their development priorities without necessarily having to be looking up to Yaoundé at all times. He also faced opposition from within our struggle, with a lot of us who felt that Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Abine, talks of federalism are outdated right now. The people have moved on and simply need a restoration of our country. We simply need to send La République du Cameroon out of our country and enjoy the self-determination that we so clearly and truly deserve. Despite this opposition, even from our side, the Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Abine continues to stand for what he believed in. He was tortured. He was starved after spending 8 months in jail. And I said this before. The day on January 21, 2017, when Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Abine was arrested, that was the day I had to be arrested. We were in the same zone. I was at my personal cabinet at Rond-Point Express. That was about 3 to 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And he was at his home at the Tam Tam weekend, just, not far away from my place. The informant who called me and asked me to leave my office with immediate effect also had that call to make for the the now deceased Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Abine. But that informant simply succeeded in getting me out of my office less than 5 minutes to the time the forces invaded my office in search of my person. And by the time I got to that person, to understand they also needed to call Chief Justice Ayah, Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Abine to notify him trouble was on his way. By the time we called his wife, she said he had just been picked up. So my people of Ambazonia, he spent 8 months plus in an underground cell without the possibility to receive medical attention. He was tortured, he was starved to a point never before known. And when he eventually got released, when La République du Cameroun decided it was time to, to decriminalize talks of federalism, he was never indemnified. They blocked his benefits, blocked his pensions, blocked his everything, and made sure he would not have the means to treat himself. Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Abine, as you can see him here, endured and endured and endured until illness took hold of him. Even in his dying circumstances, he never had the kind of attention that he deserved. I'd like us to listen to the now deceased Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Abine tell his own painful story in a few words.
I climbed the judicial ladder to the top, got to index 1,400. Nobody goes beyond. Saved my country for at least 4 decades. only to end up the way I am. I'm unable to foot my medical bills because not only has my pension been retained by the government without any reason, without even informing me, for close to 7 years, but for over 5 years now, my bank accounts have been frozen. Mr. President of the Republic, if I stood against constitutional amendment, I had nothing against you. It was a matter of principle. Pension is a saving, money deducted from my salary over the period of my career. It is not money I have to earn. How on earth would our government sit on my money for 7 years, even at the time that I am on the brink of the grave? Mr. President, I leave it to your conscience. You may wish to ask yourself, if I were in poor Ayah's position, and you happen to be Paul, the wonderful preacher, the wonderful teacher, if we bear that name truly, I leave it to your conscience. I climbed the judicial.
You see this? I mean, I was finding it difficult to hold my tears as he was speaking because I imagined the pain. Some of us have gone through a lot of that too. Even at this, even at our ages, we've faced that. But you could see that even at this point, even with this passionate appeal by the Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Paul Abine to Paul Biya in the public place, he was talking about conscience, talking conscience to someone who had lost it so many decades ago. Nothing was ever done. Nothing. Until he passed. While Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Paul Abine was facing all these vicissitudes, someone like Mbella Moki Charles, who claims to be so protective of the place he calls Southwest Region and the people he calls Southwest Region, who says he's a senator, whom we saw run to Yaoundé to fight for the release of a rascal, a murderer, a terrorist like Moja Moja, never ever for 1 second stood in parliament or anywhere to cry, to fight for the rights of the Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Paul Abine. Like you heard him say, pension is a right. He was not begging. It was money deducted from his earnings over the years. So were his savings. And that this money will be paid to him when he will be on retirement in a way as to sustain everyone. That's what pension is. Not Musonge Peter Mafani, who is by Paul Biya at the presidency of La République du Cameroon as what is it, chief of whatever, chancellor of the national orders. Not even him. Not even John Gute says he's prime minister, head of government. Not even John Gute stood up at any point to say, I'm fighting for this man. In total indifference, they watched him. All of them. Dorothy Limunga and Jioma, all of them there, they watched him emaciate gradually. Mfon Mukete and even his successor, nothing. They watched. For Tabetando, who is from Manu County, just like the now deceased Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Paul Abine, nothing. That is why in his message, of condolence. Maurice Kamto, a citizen of La République du Cameroon, of course, was, I mean, in the same corps, like Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Abine, doesn't mince his words when he attacks and literally belittles the so-called ruling elite in the southern Cameroons for standing by and watching indifferently. All of them, the Atanga Ponjis, all of them, nobody, none of them, the Foucalistus gentry, they all stood by and watched him. Regina Mundi, they all stood by and watched him get right down to this point. Because just like Paul Biya, he was appealing to, well, no conscience, all of them too had lost their consciences. That's why Maurice Kamto says, and I like to take the French version because I saw an English translation which was not really pro. He says, j'ai appris avec émotion le décès ce mercredi 25 décembre 2024 de M. Ayah Paul Abine, ancien haut magistrat, ancien député à l'Assemblée nationale, combattant intrépide de la liberté et des droits de l'homme, homme de conviction profondément attaché à la démocratie à laquelle il aura cru jusqu'au bout. That's Maurice Kamto, those are just eulogies saying his ability to fight for freedom and all of those. But I like to go to specific areas. So he says, pour avoir exprimé son opinion sur une question importante engageant la vie de la nation, il avait été soumis à toutes sortes de tortures physiques et morales après son arrestation arbitraire. You see, he is confirming. It is because of his convictions, his firm convictions. We heard Honorable Ayah Paul Abine himself say there that he knows where his trouble started because he opposed a constitutional revision that was meant to make Mr. Paul Biya a life president. But afterward, he also stood up to talk about the plight of his people of the southern Cameroons. And Mr. Kamto says, sa torture morale a continué malgré sa libération. Of course, he confirms, despite his being released after over 8 months in jail for nothing. Torture. The torture on him never ended. And Maurice Kamto goes somewhere where I really want to pay my attention to. He said, par ce moyen inhumain, le pouvoir qu'il a pourtant servi avec loyauté l'a laissé dépérir sous le regard indifférent de ses collègues magistrats et d'une élite anglophone aussi cruelle à son endroit que servile vis-à-vis du pouvoir, of course. That was the part that was interesting to me. And Maurice Kamto is reminding the Southern Cameroon political elite who worked with Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Paul Abine. He's reminding them of their cruelty, the heartlessness with which they stood by and watched him die by day and by night, and crying and appealing. They stood by and they watched how he was going day by day. Even after he passed, I've not heard any of them raise a little finger. Because even in death, he still frightens them too much. Even in death, associating with him could still attract to them the wrath of the evil genius Paul Biya. So when you talk about conscience, you don't talk conscience to someone who doesn't have it. Because if Mr. Paul Biya had conscience, he would never even have let the person who picked power are handed to him on a platter of gold in La République du Cameroon to die and be buried abroad just like his wife too. He wouldn't have. Those are the kind of things that have defined the ugly relationship between La République du Cameroon and the people of the Southern Cameroons. Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Paul Abine, fare thee well. We will continue this fight. We will deliver a free and independent Southern Cameroons, aka Ambazonia, to generations of Southern Cameroonians to come. they will never experience this manner of torture and dehumanization that you and a lot others that have gone before you and us who are still alive have been going through. They will not be exposed to that because we will fight and fight and fight until we get to where we are headed. Fare thee well, brave soul. Alita continue. Welcome back. I'm sure you'll be wondering why I didn't play Funeral Dirge Rather after talking about or paying tribute to the fallen hero, Honorable Chief Justice Ayah Abine. I didn't do that because we will not be mourning, we will be celebrating him. We will be celebrating him. He's too tall among his generation. He didn't follow the crowds. He understood the need to fight for what is right. We will be celebrating him. We will not be mourning because we will be fighting to ensure that we attain our objective and deliver a free and independent Southern Cameroons, aka Ambazonia, as a prize for all those who have gone before him. Before him, we had Pa Molanjoli Tumbe. We have had Chief Ayamba Ete Otun. We also had Chief Justice Alobwede. We will continue, Ebon Alobwede. We will continue to fight very hard until we get what we want. Again, before I jump on to Michel Bienton, the La République du Cameroon planted agent, and of course, in plain sight, not hidden, I like to remind us of this dictum. Never be afraid to raise your voice for honesty and truth and compassion against injustice and lying and greed. Folks, I say this because it's now commonplace in our community that people no longer stand for what is right. People no longer just support what is right. They support the people they like because they feel they stand to benefit something from those people. Truth, fact, justice, and all of those things appear to mean nothing to anyone at this point in time. But trust me, my people of Ambazonia, I don't care whose ass this truth gorges out. I don't care. What I care about is that the people need to know the truth because it is this truth that will set us free. You see, a very flamboyant headline like this one from Michel Bienton, and I've received it from so many people, so many people. A lot of people are getting this and they're sharing because it says urgent. No, what is he saying? It said urgent, un document top secret qui donne raison aux Ambazoniens. Is that one? Yes. Un document top secret qui donne raison aux Ambazoniens. Is that one? Yes. That is it. And yeah, no, that's not the one. Urgent, that's what you have on your screen. There should be this. Urgent, le régime Biad a donné 1 milliard de francs CFA à des leaders ambazoniens au Canada. That's what you are seeing on your screen. Yeah. C'est urgent. Le régime Biya a donné 1 milliard de francs CFA à des leaders ambazoniens au Canada. My people of Ambazonia. You see, sometimes we get gullible, like I said, because we are so scandal prone, liking scandals, liking things that are bringing people down, bringing others down. We think they are lifting us up and all whatnot, because we have grown in that culture. If we take time, just one moment, to personally investigate or recall things that we have heard before, or just go back down memory lane, we will realize that a lot of the trash that we share feverishly and begin believing immediately will not make it past our fingers. The reason is simple. The people always count on the fact that we have forgotten, that we don't recall that we had hurt or seen certain things, or that we witnessed certain things happen. And so they play on that. They use those things, they play on our intelligence. I said it at the beginning of this broadcast. Michel Bientong had been a planted agent of La République du Cameroon. He is a citizen of La République du Cameroon. So there was even supposed to be no doubt as to his mission. And people so easily stood up to think, oh no, he had just been, is one passionate person who so loves Ambazonia to the point where he's ready to die for Ambazonia. I know Michel Bientong in Yaoundé. He was in the press milieu. I was a journalist for 19 years in that system. I knew Michel Bientong. So when he started, I was like, okay, maybe this guy was just an activist for truth, but I was trying to look at it pertinently. I want to understand it. When he was still in, I think it's Burkina Faso or something like that, I reached out to him the first time he started doing exactly what I suspected was going to be his role. Recall, while Bamqui arrested too many people who were our people and none of them was ever let go, Michel Bientong was arrested among some of our people. It was a camouflage. All of that had to be done to give the impression to the people of Ambazonia that Michel Bientong was genuine. After that, they let him go, and he was even able to move from the country and got to, I think it was Burkina Faso, or if not Togo, I think it was Burkina Faso. I'm getting mixed up with the country, but I think it was Burkina Faso. So he stayed there for some time while they worked hard to get a place to send him. In the end, when Bamqui and his people thought that, okay, no, he needed to move from here now, closer to people so that when he's saying things they should be, they now moved him to the Scandinavian countries, I think specifically Norway. Reason is simple. For him to continue fostering exactly what he's doing, because they counted, and they count on the gullibility of the people of Ambazonia, that will think there's some citizen of La République du Cameroon who is so hell-bent on seeing Ambazonia become independent, just like that. And he is committed his whole life to doing just that. I had occasion to tell a lot of people in this liberation movement, be careful with Michel, because Michel is doing exactly what La République wants him to do. They have to do everything to make him gain our confidence. Once he gains our confidence, we start believing in him. We start seeing him as one of our top sympathizers. We will be sharing information with him. We will be sharing his, his outings among us. And the only thing, the biggest role that Michel Bientong will have to play will be especially that of fostering La République du Cameroon's most favorite sport, which is divide and rule. Make sure we are constantly at loggerheads with one another. And because we've had our own internal issues and we have been fighting each other, he easily found fertile ground. I called people in the Sakole camp early enough and told them, I see you people are collaborating so closely with Michel Bientong because you have the feeling that is really standing for and supporting you. No, he is not. He is using that position to attain an objective. And that objective is destructive to our liberation movement. Is destroying our liberation movement and is getting paid handsomely by La République du Cameroon through Bamqui. And to make sure that you and I don't suspect he has anything to do with Bamqui, is the Bamqui name he will call from 1st to 31st derogatorily. It is by design. It is the Bamqui who say has bribed this in our struggle, has bribed that here, has bribed that there, deliberately. You certainly heard some audios that came out from one of La République du Cameroon's activists, one very celebrated one, they call him Boris Berthold, that will give you the impression that Boris Berthold seems to be fighting the Biya system so bad. That is in their system, so that he's liked by those people who are fighting for change. You'll feel like this is one of us. But in effect, those are the people whose role is to play the agent provocateur and then have the possibility to infiltrate the real milieu of the real people fighting for change, and will now confidently be leaking out information about who is where and doing what and exactly how those persons can be attained. That's the same role that Michel Bientong has been playing with the same banquet. You notice that in that conversation, when Banqui and the others were really hot about something, the name of someone who is based in the United States of America, it's not me saying it, who always comes, I think is it Nomo or whatever, who always comes and does videos, dress in military attire, make like this, and say he is finishing the Biafra government to another, is it Numa? Numa, yes, Numa. To another point, I heard Numa's name. Curiously enough, as being discussed between Banqui and Boris Berthold as one of them, and worried that they are told Numa don't work again with this, that person because they pretend to be with us, but it's not with us. I followed that audio carefully and I said, there you go. Because we are facing a system, which system is specialized specifically in making sure they are in you, present with you right in the main room, pretending to be with you and destroying you from within. All these lousy allegations of, oh, this one has collected money, that one has collected money, they know exactly why they are doing that. If you are doubting, let me take you back to a story that I lived. I was a member of the press corps in Cameroon when we were all screaming, oh, at the time, oh, let Frundi and Biya meet so that when they meet, if the two of them met, they will be able to talk peacefully and then they could collaborate together and then there will be peaceful elections and then the country will, develop and all of those. Hell no. I recall because I was publishing a magazine called Timescape Magazine. At that time, in 2010, when Frundi and Biya finally met in Bamenda, when Mr. Biya visited Bamenda in 2010, when Frundi and Biya finally met off station and shook hands, we had that as the back cover of our magazine. And the title of it was Brushing Off the Clusters of Thorns. We were saying, no, this is a moment the two have started talking. They will definitely be able to agree to put in place institutional reforms that will help foster democracy and ensure peaceful transfer of power in the country. But hell no. While the Biya system finally decided to say, okay, let us yield, let us get to that man, there was a plan B, which was meant to bring him now closer finally and let us destroy him once and for all. Because after that handshake, Atanga Ponji was a agent provocateur, immediately jumped out there and announced, started telling people everywhere that during that visit, Mr. Pobia gave Frundi a briefcase with 30 million CFA inside, and Frundi has hidden it and do not want to share with the other members of his delegation, with the members of parliament who were with him, with this and that. And trust me, some of those SDF parliamentarians believed that story. Some of them actually believed. Some of them who spoke to me said, but when they say there can be no smoke without fire, that is how it started. And now they have to start telling everybody, oh, you see, Frundi is already eating. He's already collecting his own money. He's already this and that. So why are you still fighting? You don't need to go through him to come to us. Just come to us because he's already collecting his own money. He collect. And at Tanga, you'll be telling people commission, I am even the one who gave him that briefcase. Oh, yes. And that is how gradually, they got Frundi to the point where even when Frundi could not convince his own party stalwarts that he never collected money, got to he said, okay, if they believe they have collected, fine and good. And of course, let the collection begin. That is how they reduce the SDF to nothing. With those kind of allegations, it's the same thing that meant to work on in our liberation movement. We find somebody like Michel Bientong come out to make this kind of lousy allegations. You see, oh, those who really like to hear scandals, who like to hear some people, those images destroyed and all not, they are sharing, very feverishly sharing. Have you heard? This is serious. The audio he plays in this video, some people have forgotten that they listened to that audio 3 years ago. 3 years ago. Then they listened to that audio, and that audio was sent out by Capo Daniel himself. I'm not a Capo Daniel fan. No. But truth be told, that Capo Daniel himself sent out that audio. And what was his justification at the time? He said he was sending out that audio because he actually set up the person who called him and was talking to him. He recorded because he wanted to show the level to which the people were determined to go in trying to run down our liberation movement with money. So it was Capo who released it himself. Today, Michel Biemton gives you and I the impression that he just got, this is a scoop. He just got this audio now, and he may even tell you that this audio was sent to him by some very confidential sources. This is an audio that had been in circulation for at least 3 years today. If you have been in this liberation movement and you have been following things going up and down, you definitely did listen to this audio. And if you paid attention, you realize it's not new. If you remove hatred, if you remove the desire for spreading, trash, for running down other people, you will recognize that this audio is old and had been sent out by Capo Daniel himself at least 3 years behind. I mean 3. That this audio circulated. Now, Michel Biemton had just been, they waited for time, they know that you forget. And today, the audio is being linked to the pre-talks in Canada. That's audio that came out 3 years before that thing ever happened in Canada. And he gives the impression that it is thanks to that Capo Daniel was able to convince the rest of the leadership to attend the pre-talks in Canada. Capo Daniel was only picked as a delegate. I was in London at the meeting at which we sat to determine who will be a delegate and who will not be. At the meeting at which we sat to decide that Ambazonia at the pre-talks in Canada will not, be used for something called a retail peace process. No, that we were going to be one voice. At the meeting where we sat to determine, despite the program that they have sent out, on day 1, we're going to meet the people of AGOFC and ADF. On day 2, we're going to meet the people of IDK and their forces. On day 3, we're going to meet the people of APLM. On day 4, we're going to meet the people of ACT, and then the Marine Tanjomia IG. And that's how they were going, they had planned to look at things in that manner. But when we sat in London, we decided that no, that was not going to happen. We were putting together a delegation from the same groups, but that is going to present as one. And you are going to meet Ambazonians in one meeting, not in 2, not in separate meetings, one meeting. And it is at that meeting that we designated Professor Carlson Anyangwe to be the leader of the Southern Cameroons of the Ambazonian delegation. At that meeting, when Cho Ayaba, I think he even left earlier, and I called to say, who are you sending? I hope you are not sending Capo Daniel, because I stood up to say, I hope you are not sending Capo Daniel. I called the people of CDN and all, and I said, please, Comrade Ayaba left already. Can you find out? I hope it's not Capo Daniel he's sending. And the bad news the following morning I got was that it was actually Capo Daniel, though he was having some challenges of visa to Canada from Hong Kong and all that. It was Capo Daniel Comrade Ayaba was sending. And I reached out to him and said, this is disaster. He said the AGOFC cabinet had chosen Capo Daniel. But today you get someone telling you it was Capo Daniel's initiative who was picking people from left and right. These are the fallacies that are put there, and people are called upon to swallow them. And when he speaks, he gives the impression that, he gives the impression that he is the spokesperson of the Sako-led IG. Because he says, oh, all those groups collected money except the Sako-led IG, which is the only genuine force. I had told people in the Sako-led IG, I know, that's as I'm speaking now, stones are already coming. But trust me, folks, those stones have never frightened me. I will tell you this truth from day one to the end. Recall the number of stones I've already received this far, my face has remained. It's not deformed yet. It has remained. And I have still been here. I've not moved. Even those who were hired, who became activists just to take care of my image, to insult and say all kinds of trash about me, where are they? They have all gone and left me here. I'm here. And I've said, I'm here for the long haul. I'm here all the way until we achieve this independence. Nothing will shake me out of here. And I will say it always as it is. If you would like to take a quick listen of Michel Bienton, because this is something that, oh my goodness, what's it? Okay, I see what's happening. I will get there. I actually want to take a small listening. This gentleman, I'll push him to places where he says what I want us to talk about quickly.
Citoyens sur l'actualité camerounaise et africaine, bienvenue à la chronique 2022. C'est-à-dire qu'entre octobre 2022 et janvier 2023, il y a eu une espèce de négociation entre des représentants du gouvernement camerounais et certaines factions du mouvement ambazonien que le régime de Paul Biya avait réussi à domestiquer. C'est-à-dire qu'il y a eu des assises au Canada. Moi, j'avais considéré cela à l'époque comme étant des chuchotteries entre petits copains.
So, you hear that? He says that the Cameroon government has succeeded in domesticating those that they caused to go to Canada. In domesticating. Listen, I already announced, and we're getting finally there, that I'll be here with Professor Carlson Anyangwe, who was the head of the delegation, who will tell it all exactly as it happened, because we gave the Canadian government time enough to, work out to, give us the freedom to communicate on this, because for a long time they kept telling us, hold it there, hold on first, don't get to that. We're still trying to do some undercurrents to see if we can revive the thing with that. And I finally said, look, folks, it's got to the point where we need to tell this story as it is. And we need to get some of that paperwork. Before long, some of the paperwork will come out of what transpired in Canada that everybody should see for themselves. Because La République du Cameroon ran away from Canada because they were not able to achieve the objective for which they set out to achieve in Canada. La République du Cameroon ran out of Canada because they had underestimated the people of the Southern Cameroons, aka Ambazonia. They had underestimated us. But when they got to Canada, and the final paperwork that was signed, the content, the wordings, and everything, I want to assure you, we spent sleepless nights analyzing word after word for what was finally the document which was signed onto. And that document, La République du Cameroon resisted signing it for almost 3 days until when we said we were out of it, it dawned on them they needed, if they wanted to move, they needed to sign that document. And it is because La République du Cameroon's representatives signed onto that document that the presidency of the Republic of La République du Cameroon decided to disown the Prime Minister's office and the Chief John Gute Joseph on that document. Because they said, if they allowed it to happen, that document comes out as being they signed that was a direct recognition of the sovereignty of the people of the Southern Cameroons over their land. That's why they said over their dead bodies. That is why they were ready to kick even Canada in the face. These are things people don't know. When someone like this one runs his mouth, he has no idea what's even talking about. Because if La République du Cameroon had domesticated people, giving people 1 billion, then why would they say they never made in Canada? Of course, they should have been able to come out of Canada with a document that tells the world that no, these people have finally recognized that La République du Cameroon has sovereignty over the territory of the Southern Cameroons. They would have come out of that triumphant. If La République du Cameroon had domesticated people, why would they run away? Go to the extent of spoiling their image before the international partners, the representatives of the United Nations that were there. Why would they run away? Well, they claim nothing ever happened. If they spend that much money. You see, sometimes you hear people, you listen to people say things that are disjointed, that are incoherent. Stories that don't even begin by telling you where the head starts and where the tail is. You listen to those kind of stories, you even go ahead to share it. Sometimes ask yourself, what have I done to myself? We need to learn sometimes to be ashamed of ourselves for believing rubbish, for believing trash, for believing such inanities. And it is because they have that notion that we are a gullible people that they have people like Michel Bienton thrive in our midst. Listen again.
Puisque depuis qu'il y a eu ces négociations entre guillemets là au Canada, on ne sait pas quelles ont été les résolutions. C'est vrai que l'on a suivi Mélanie, elle s'appelait comment là? Mélanie Joly, c'est-à-dire que la porte-parole hein, du ministère canadien des Relations extérieures, qui s'était fendue en un communiqué, je crois que c'était le 22 janvier 2023, si je ne me trompe pas. Alors, elle avait publié un communiqué pour dire que voilà, le gouvernement canadien joue le rôle de facilitateur dans la résolution du conflit, dans les négociations en vue du cessez-le-feu dans les régions anglophones du Cameroun, entre guillemets, etc., etc. Mais ce que beaucoup de Camerounais ignorent, c'est que, et que moi-même, je l'ai découvert seulement aujourd'hui, hein, ça, je vais vous l'avouer, je l'ai découvert seulement aujourd'hui, que les leaders prétendument ambazoniens qui ont apposé leur signature sur tout ce qui a été conclu comme résolution à ces, soi-disant, à ces prétendues négociations. Tous les leaders ambazoniens qui ont signé ces résolutions-là ont encaissé de l'argent venu de Yaoundé.
You hear that?
Ils ont encaissé de l'argent.
I'll stay on the last thing he just said. That what he discovered just today, that means when he says today, that's the day he published this video. That's 1 day ago, so that should be on the 27th of December 2024. It's on the 27th of December that he discovered, he realized that all the so-called leaders of the Southern Cameroon's cause who signed the document in Canada had received money. Of course, you are going to hear here from Professor Carlson Anyangwe that no leader signed anything in Canada. None. No leader sat through the sessions in Canada. None. No leader, nobody. The leadership worked online, reading every day, receiving reports every day from the delegates who are on the ground, and having the last conversation with Professor Carlson Anyangwe every day late at night as to what transpired during the day, and then plan the strategy for the next day. The only leader that was present in Canada was Dr. Ebenezer Akwanga. Even so, he was only there to help in ensuring that there was continuous cohesion among the team members. He never sat through a single session. And even him, his signature is nowhere on any of those documents signed. This is a fact. I'm not guessing because I was involved. I'm not guessing. It is a fact. Komecho Ayaba was not in Canada. Comrade Daphne Yerima was not in Canada. Comrade Prizo was not in Canada. Comrade Marianne Tanjomia was not in Canada. I was not in Canada. None of us were in Canada. The delegates that were in Canada had a leadership, and that was Professor Carson Anyangwe, under whose coordination they worked. There is no point saying trash. This is what I said. While we sat and decided that let's observe some discretion, because that's what international negotiations and diplomatic discussions are all about. Of course, La République du Cameroon, known for its rogueness, will want to use that vacuum to fill it with falsehood, like you hear from Michel Bienton. And when he says it, he gives you the impression that, oh, he's standing for Comrade Samuel Sako Ikome, and because, oh, that's the righteous, you see, those are the real people who did not. No, he's not. He has an objective to attain. Set confusion in the minds of the people of Ambazonia at this end of year and start of 2025, when La République du Cameroon is going to be facing serious vicissitudes. They need us to have a new front to start fighting over. They need us to have something new to start quarreling over. Oh, these people collected money. Yes, these people are. They want to use this to demoralize our people on ground zero, to demoralize those who are still standing strong for our liberation movement in the diaspora. I want to tell Michel Bienton, you lie. And as you say, of course, I see it already has about 13,000 views. Go by sharing, left, right. Oh, yeah. Those who hate this one or the other. Are you hearing? Those people, they collected money. As I say, yes. They collected. They said they gave 1 billion. You even hear the audio he uses. That audio is at least 3 years old. Has no relationship. But he gives you the impression he just got that audio. It's by design.
Le gouvernement camerounais a débloqué 1 milliard de francs pour soudoyer les leaders ambazoniens afin qu'ils puissent participer à ces négociations-là, afin qu'ils puissent s'engager à ne plus revendiquer l'indépendance de l'Ambazonie. Je ne vous en dirai pas plus. Je ne vous en dirai pas plus. Je vous invite simplement à écouter cet audio que voilà.
Did you hear that? He claims that La République du Cameroun spent 1 billion that is shared to the Ambazonian leaders to convince them to participate in those talks. 1 billion. And where does he get his information about that 1 billion that was shared? From an audio that was published by Capo Daniel 3 years, at least 3 years behind. That's the audio that informs him that 1 billion was shared to people so they should show up in Canada. 1 billion. Yet, we undertook a trip of poverty in London. It was thanks to the CDN that shopped for resources here and there to help gather the leadership in London so we could sit down, converge our points of views, and agree to present one delegation only, to speak in Canada in one voice. I'd like to take this opportunity in this end of year to honestly and continually hail the leadership of the CDN. They did an awesome job for us. They even hired for us experts who consulted with us daily as we received information from Canada and helped us to process this and guided us in the decisions that we took, guided us through the paperwork that we're working on, assisted us too in going letter after letter for every document. This is a truth that our people need to know. Because like I said, you will know the truth, and this truth, unmitigated, will set you free. Let's hear him again.
Et on revient par la suite pour la mise en contexte de ce document sonore. Écoutez cet audio et on revient par la suite, mesdames et messieurs.
Oui, allô mon frère?
Allô, monsieur Belinga. Allô, je t'écoute.
Je dirais que j'attends les documents, oui, j'attends le parce que normalement, si j'avais déjà ça, je devais quitter aujourd'hui.
My country people. Vraiment,
Le document là, je te dis, dès que j'arrive, on va finaliser l'affaire là-bas. Il y a les moyens sur place.
I want to stop here so you take note of something. You take note of the editing there, right? When the person starts talking, Capo Daniel stops and says, my country people. Because he was introducing to the people that my country people will not hear this person and all not. Michel Biemton took off that part because he has an objective to attain. My people of Ambazonia, we are the underdogs in this duel with La République du Cameroun. Underdogs always function with a lot of intelligence and smartness. You don't let some planted agent operating in plain sight ruin your thought pattern. Take control of how you think and reason. Because you are of the Sako faction of the IG, you are surely out there sharing this. Have you heard? Because inside they're saying Cho Ayaba is a fraud. They're saying inside that all those other leaders, they are fake, they have collected money. Only Sako is the righteous leader. He's the only one who stood tall and never. Oh, really? No, he's not doing you a favor. No, he's not helping you. No. You have that feeling that he's doing that? No. Michel Biemton has an objective completely different from that. But he's using you because he knows that you are going to share and share until your fingers pain. He's using you to attain an objective, to make sure he create a new front where we will begin fighting each other, attacking each other on social media, throwing invectives at a time they are facing serious challenges in 2025, so we will not be focused on undoing La République du Cameroun at a time where they will be at their weakest point. We have to learn these things. We have to pay careful attention to these things. Like I said, this is an old audio. And he took it, not from somewhere else, he took it from Capo Daniel's platform. And edited, that's why you hear Capo Daniel's voice say, my country people. He's not telling that person of La République du Cameroun that my country people. He introduced the audio and he's telling my country people, listen to this conversation. If you search on Capo Daniel's platform, you will find this particular broadcast. You will see the year that it was broadcast. You will get the context and you will come to realize it has no relationship with what Michel Biemton is talking about. But it is by design that it is coming out at this point in time. Let's close up on him.
On va discuter ensemble.
Allô? Allô, oui.
Oui, mon frère, oui.
Yeah. Donc, on disait ton nom.
Je dis alors que je t'envoie comment tu dois écrire. Je suis en train de le faire. Comment tu dois écrire. Ce n'est pas un engagement comme tu croyais là. C'est seulement pour que je puisse voyager, pour qu'on dise que tu m'attends.
Ok. Mais je demande à propos de la motivation. C'est que je veux quand même.
So I even don't want to take a lot of our time on all of this, but when you listen to this here, you listen to the sound quality, you understand that the person recording this conversation is Capo Daniel. Do you realize that? Because you hear the other person talking, you see the sound is, but you hear the person whose voice is very clear inside is Capo Daniel. Because the recording device was with him. That is the person recording the conversation. And it is the same person that recorded the conversation that sent it out. Michel Biemton suddenly just landed on a school like that. So he hacked Capo Daniel stuff and took it out of there to... We have to be careful in this liberation movement. We really have to be careful. There are a lot of inaccuracies that he says inside there. A lot of them. Let's take the last cut and then we are good to go.
comprends si ce qui je peux attendre pour avoir une idée. Parce que... Oui, je t'avais dit non, je t'avais dit que dans les négociations, donc en dehors de l'argent qu'on va te donner à la fin, l'argent pour organiser toute la négociation, on a prévu, c'est 100 millions. Ça veut dire pour parler avec tes autres, c'est ça que tu dois organiser.
The person in the audio says what they have kept aside to be shared. If Capo Daniel were to cooperate with him at that time, was saying some million. Michel Biemton tells you they distributed 1 milliard. My people, look, we have to get out of the circle of hatred, disdain, and lack of respect for one another. We have one objective, and it's a common objective. We have one enemy, and it's a common enemy. That enemy is La République du Cameroon. Capo Daniel may no longer be with us in this liberation movement. He is, of course, clearly on the side of La République du Cameroon. But Capo Daniel, in this particular role, in this particular audio, and at this particular time, was not with La République du Cameroon. Capo Daniel might have had some contacts and everything, but at this point in time when he did this, Capo Daniel might still have been on the balance and all of those. Today, Capo Daniel is fully with them, but Capo Daniel got his challenge in Canada. And this is exactly what I had told Comrade Ayaba could happen. Because you don't send somebody who is not intellectually equipped and who has no experience to go to a place where they will be exposed to international career diplomats whose only job is to suck information from you, use it in destroying your brain and taking over your thought pattern to the point you don't know where you are. Because in Canada, yes, he was exposed, and that's exactly what I'd warned about. And he was reminded of the fact that you have done this, you have done that. Listen, even Ambazonia were to get independence today, you are a war criminal. This is how you can redeem yourself. And they put all those things to Capo Denise and transformed him into the machine that he is today. That is why he's where he is today. This rubbish you get inside here from Michel Biemton has no relationship with Canada. It hasn't. I am telling you here, and I'm reiterating, there was no leader in Canada who attended any of those sessions. And I've repeated and I'm confirming the only person in leadership that was present in Canada, and for other reasons other than sitting through those sessions, was Comrade Ebenezer Akwanga. And he never attended a single session. He was only there to continue to assist the group, the delegation, to continue to work together. To make sure wherever there were cracks, he could come in. And of course, a lot of times he had to intervene, to resolve one conflict or the other, to make sure that the people were working together. So this trash of les leaders qui ont signé, of the leaders who signed those documents, he doesn't know what document he's talking about. No leader signed any document, not one. And this should be clear in everybody's mind. Like I said, I'll be back here on this platform with Professor Carlson Anyangwe, where everything will be put on the table. Everything will be made clear for everyone to understand exactly what transpired in Canada. So, folks, I would like to end here. I know we've been sufficiently long and it's sufficiently late, but share the link of this communication as much as you can, because our people need to know the truth. And we need to continue to fight against this kind of infiltration, which is detrimental to our liberation movement. Because if we do not fight relentlessly against this kind of infiltration, it will destroy, or it will attain some vulnerable minds, and it will make them begin to think things that are not real, things that have no foundation, things that have no place in our liberation movement. I want you to note that. And I'm saying it and I'm repeating. Take note. If you've never heard it anytime officially, get it from my lips very clearly today. Michel Bienton has never ever been in this for the people of Ambazonia. Michel Bienton is a citizen of La République du Cameroon, planted in our midst to come across as someone who is so sympathetic with our cause for the sole purpose of being used after he's gained our confidence and is deep in us to not only suck out vital information, but to inject confusion and divisive messages to keep us always hitting our heads against each other. If you know it, you know it, and it will help you. But if you don't know it, you will keep thinking that he is so much for us. That's why I keep saying, oh, ADF and La République du Cameroon forces are one people, they are always working together and all of those things. Of course, even a Banku would like to say it like that some forces in the South Cameroon are working closely with them because we need to hate them, we need to go after them, we need to kill each other in the belief that they are working with them and fighting against us. It's simple. It's war strategy. You can't blame them for doing that. You won't know what you can do to get your enemy down, and you don't do it. It is for us to be mature enough and wise enough to differentiate between what is for us and what is against us. We have to be wise. Alita continua. To God be the glory.